So I got like a lot of love and support from my family and from a lot of people. I got gifts and money too from people. That was a very, very good time for me. I feel like I should give birth again soon. Hi guys, you're welcome to another episode on Shalom's Corner, and it's so great to have you guys back here with me listening to my beautiful voice. Anyways, thank you guys for the love on the previous video, for all the compliments, for all the corrections. I've taken everything into account and I will do as you guys say to make sure that everybody has fun on my channel. So today we're going to have a little story time, and I'm going to be telling you guys about my pregnancy journey and my delivery and how, you know, motherhood has been for me, but more on my pregnancy journey and my delivery. And this particular gist is very special to me, and I'm sure it's special to you guys, because everybody's like, oh Shalom, how was it for you? How was it for you? Now when anybody asks me any question, I'll just direct them to my YouTube channel. I'll be like, go and watch it, because today is the day that we shall say Shalom's pregnancy gist. Like I said, we're going to be talking about my pregnancy journey, how I found out I was pregnant, how it was, how my parents took it, because, you know, I'm not married yet. So we're going to go bits into the whole gist. So before we get into this gist, I would like for you guys to pause, go and grab your snacks and your drink, and come back to pay attention to this scintillating gist, because you guys have stressed me so much with Shalom, how was your whole pregnancy thing? Shalom, how did it go? Shalom, today is the day that it will all be revealed. Pay attention. You can grab your notes, put it in your notes app or your phone or whatever, write it somewhere and pay attention to this gist. So let me go and get my water. I'm coming.
Feeling and chasing to see beyond doubt, and gotta be a fool to search beside.
So now that my throat is well lubricated, let us get into this gist. So first of all, I discovered I was pregnant when I was 7 months, or let me say it in the medical terms, I was 28 weeks and 4 days pregnant when I found out that I was pregnant. A little backstory. So this happened 2019 and I was 19. Yeah, my birthday follows the year, so whatever, do the math. So I was 19 and it was in October, and that was when I did the deed. And you know, I did not see my period in November, so I thought it was like, you know, like a whole hormonal thing. You know how when you take the contraceptive, sometimes, you know, your period, it messes up your cycle, your menstrual cycle, and you skip, or you don't, is it that you don't see that month, or you like spots, you know, those kind of changes. So I thought that was what's going on, so I didn't do a test in November. But when I didn't see it in December, I ran like a blood test and a PT, like with the pregnancy strip thing. I used it and it was negative. I wasn't pregnant. I was like, okay. So I thought back to the time when I was in secondary school. I think I was in SS2 and I didn't see my period for like 2-3 months. So around that time in SS2, I hadn't seen my period too, so I thought it was one of those moments. And you know, I waited. I did, you know, the test in December. I didn't see. January came and I'm like, okay. Plus I wasn't noticing any change in my body. I wasn't throwing up. I wasn't, you know, all those pregnancy things. Trust me, pregnancy did not come to my mind, because I thought we were, you know, that careful. You know, I took the contraceptive until, you know, February. I ran another test, another, you know, blood test and the whole strip thing, and I didn't see. So I was starting to get worried. I thought there was something wrong, you know, with me. I thought it was like health, you know, like there was something wrong with my body. And that time was like doing like the whole corona thing. So we had to go home. I had to go home, you know, to stay with like my parents. And I was at home, and because when people tell me like, oh, you didn't know you were pregnant for like 7 months, I'm just like, you know, I was with my mom and my dad. I was wearing like my regular tops, like nothing was going on with me. There was no, I mean, my mom she's giving birth, so if I was having these, you know, body changes, she would have spotted it, but like there was no body change. I was still taking, you know, I even have like videos and pictures from when, you know, I was still in school. I was like around like, so I like when I found out I was pregnant, when I checked the dates, when I watched those videos, I'm like, okay, I was 3 months pregnant here, I was 4 months pregnant here. Like there was no difference. It was not until April ending, I spoke to like a friend of mine. I'm not going to call her name. And I told her, and she was like, okay, I told her what I was going through. I'm like, babe, look at what's happening. I don't know why I'm not seeing my period. I mean, and then she asked me, and then I told her like, okay, I had sex, duh. And you know, I took like contraceptives, and you know, I thought it was going to stop, or I was going to, you know, maybe like it would skip like this month and I'll see the next month. And she's like, okay, that's, you know, she did a scan and they said that she had like a cyst, like an ovarian cyst, and that, you know, I should just to be sure, I should go and run a scan. So I was really scared, like, a cyst, like why does it have to be a cyst? So I didn't go for the test immediately. I didn't go for the scan immediately. It took like a week or two. So eventually I told my mom about it, so that, mommy, you know, I hadn't seen my period, and I was bold to tell her, because trust me, I didn't think it was pregnancy, because I wasn't seeing any change in my body. So I was really bold to go and meet my mom. I'm like, okay, mommy, I haven't seen my period yet, and this is what's going on. So we spoke to a cousin of mine. He recommended, you know, a drug for me to take. You know, it helped with like hormonal changes in like a female's body, and he recommended that for me. And I was taking that, but I think it's like this evening primrose thing. So I was taking that, and it hadn't come yet. So she was like, okay, go and run a scan. Let's just see what's going on. So when I went the first day, so it was a Thursday in May. So I went the first day, and you know, I told the doctor what I was going through, and he's like, okay, you know what, do this, do that. Tomorrow come back for a scan. I didn't run the scan immediately. So the second day was Friday. The second time I went to the hospital was Friday. And when I went, you know, I went for the ultrasound. So when I went for ultrasound, I laid on the bed, and the doctor was like, okay, let me touch your tummy, let me feel your tummy. Are you experiencing any bump? Are you experiencing, you know, whatever discomfort in your abdomen? I'm like, nah, I'm fine. I'm very good. I'm okay. And he's like, okay, lie down. So he puts, you know, when you want to do like an ultrasound, he puts the gel on my belly with that, I don't know what it's called. Then he put it on my belly, and he's like, this belly looks like a pregnant belly. My ears, I was like, excuse me? I'm like, no, I didn't come here for you to tell me I was pregnant. I came here for you to tell me that I have a cyst. So, you know, he had not put on the machine yet. Just the gel was on my belly. So I'm like, okay, maybe when he puts the machine, he's going to see the cyst. That was all that was in my head. So I'm like, I'm waiting. So I just disregarded what he said. I'm like, and then he puts on the stuff, and I hear heartbeats. In my mind, I'm like, I hope it's my heartbeat though. It cannot be somebody in my stomach. Like, it cannot be a baby's heartbeat. I don't know. It can't. And he looks at me and he's like, you're at least 5 months gone. 5 months gone. I started thinking like, okay, we're in May, so that means I go. And I'm like, oh no, like I was just, you know how you start making like all these calculations in your head, and then he's like, and I'm like, doctor, I did not know I was pregnant. And he's like, you know, you have a young body, you know, most times in first pregnancies and early pregnancies, you know, it doesn't show. But I'm like, I did not, like, there were 0 symptoms. Like, I wasn't vomiting, there was nothing going on with me. Like, all this pregnancy, I was even losing weight. And it was later on that I read that people that are pregnant, you can either gain weight or you can either lose weight. But at that initial point, I didn't know. So I'm like, bro, I can't be losing weight and be pregnant. And he just said like a lot of things. At that point, I started crying. Because I'm like, I'm turning 20 in like a week time. In a week's time, I'm turning 20. I'm in my 200 level in school. I'm the only child. My dad is a soldier. My dad is going to kill me. My mom is going to be so disappointed in me. My family, like, that was all that in my head. Like, what is going on? I just wanted somebody to wake me up from this, from the nightmare, because at that point it was a nightmare. I'm like, I'm not ready to have a baby yet. And then, you know, after, you know, he does the whole scan thing, he gives me the results of the scan, and I see 28 weeks, 7 months. I see 28 weeks and 4 days. My baby was 28 weeks and 4 days. So I had just like 2 months to prepare for my baby coming out. Like, I was in my 3rd trimester when I found out that I was pregnant. It was a whole lot of confusion for me. The doctor had to give me time because I was crying in his office. I was really confused. My head was, there was like a lot of things. I had like a lot of thoughts in my head. Like, I'm in my 3rd trimester and I did not know I was pregnant. That was all that was in my head. I started Googling stuff. I didn't know who to talk to because I was still in his office. I was waiting for him to come back. So when he came back to meet me, because he gave me time, because I wanted to cry, I cried my eyes out. So he's like, okay, so what do you do now? I told him, and he's like, okay, you know what, just take drugs. He started talking to me about drugs. I wasn't even listening to him because I'm like, no, I can't be pregnant. You know, and then I touched my belly and it was hard. I'm like, I've never noticed that my belly was hard or was like this hard before. And I'm still thinking, like, who do I talk to? Who? And then I text a friend of mine and I sent her the picture of the result and I'm like, see. And she's like, how? How didn't you know? Like, why did you get to this stage? I was like, bro, I don't even know what's going on. Right now, as I'm talking to you guys, I'm still, you know, trying to feel those emotions I felt. It was just confusion. It was confusion and I was scared of what my parents were going to do. So after I left the hospital, after I went out of the hospital building, I called my baby dad. I'm like, my love, are you free? That was what I told him, like, can you talk where you are? Like, are you free to talk? And he's like, yeah. And then I told him. And he's confused too. And I'm like, I know. and I'm like, okay, you know what? When I go home, I'll call you. Let me try to assimilate and absorb this information. So like on my ride home, I was thinking, I was like, Shalom, you are pregnant. Shalom, God's will in Kichituru. Chioma, Chiamaka, Ada, you are pregnant. Like, you are pregnant. That was all that was in my head. Like, even when I came down from the bus, I was walking home, I was going to my mom's shop. She still had a shop at that point. I was like, you are pregnant. And then I went to the shop and she asked me, like, so what did the doctor say? What's wrong with you? Mind you, you know, we both thought like it was a cyst. She was like, what's going on? I'm like, the doctor said, you know, it was just some bacteria and I just needed to take like medication. My mom is going to be so upset when she watches this episode. She's going to be like, so you lied to me. Anyways, because I still couldn't, you know, handle, so I'm like, I can't tell you now. Let me, you know, absorb the information before I tell you what the doctor really said. So one little detail that I forgot. On my way home, I branched, you know, I stopped by at a pharmacy to get like all these pregnancy multivitamins that women take. I don't know why I did that because, you know, in my mind I'm like, okay, I'm pregnant and I'm just finding out. So all those small things that I should have done earlier, let me start taking like those drugs and those maintenance pills, because I know like they give like women like all these pills at the hospital and I couldn't get like a prescribed one yet. So I'm like, okay, the one I know, this pregnant care, let me get it. So I did, and I hid it in my bag. So when I got home to my mom, she couldn't see the drug. I just put it somewhere. So when I got home, I was thinking, I went to meet like a friend of mine. I hadn't even told my best friend at that point because I was still trying to just get myself. So I went to see my friend, and initially I told him that I was going to you know, put up the baby for adoption after I had her, because I couldn't just imagine being with a child at that point, because I was really, really confused, and I couldn't handle being a mom financially, emotionally, physically. I was just thinking childbirth, delivery, I was scared. So I spoke to him and he's like, okay, you know what? You can do it. People younger than you have had children, so you know, just pray and it was going to be fine. But that wasn't what I was trying to hear at that point. And that night I couldn't sleep. I spoke to my guy, we spoke, we discussed, and I'm like, okay, you know what? I'll come and see you on Monday and we talk. This was like a week to my birthday, so my 20th birthday. I'm like, okay, we'll talk. And then Monday came and I, you know, he still couldn't believe that I was pregnant until he saw me and he touched my belly. And I could see from his eyes, like, it was like, she's actually pregnant. And, you know, it was just talks on how we're going to tell my parents. And I'm like, okay, let me celebrate my birthday. After my birthday, I will tell them. So a week after that was my birthday, I had to, my 20th birthday, I planned it was going to be big, it was going to be this, it was going to be that. But you know, with the whole corona thing, I was like, okay, I was going to, you know, throw like a small in-house party for my friends, but at that point I didn't want anybody. So I was just with my guy and a couple of my friends and his friends, and we were just chilling. And then I went back home with my friend. Like, it wasn't anything, I didn't do anything, you know, really eventful, because this pregnancy thing was still on my mind and I hadn't told my parents yet. So I think it was like a week after my birthday, I told my mom. I had to tell my mom first. My mom was like my best friend. My mom is my best friend, one of my best friends. You know, I had to tell my mom, like, I told her, we were about sleeping, I told her. And funny enough was when I told my mom, like, Mommy, I want to tell you something. First she said was, are you pregnant? Yes, I am. So I told her, and it was like a very long talk. And it was just like, she was like, you told me you and this guy had never had sex before. You told me that you and this guy, you know, you only hang out in public spaces. You told me that he was just your friend. It was like a whole lot of things. Because even during that period, that I hadn't seen my period, that I hadn't seen my, you know, my menstrual flow yet, she asked me, like, have you had sex? Like, I'm like, no, I'm a virgin. So it was just like, some weeks later, I'm coming to her that I'm pregnant and I'm 7. Like, it was, I think at the point I told her, I was like 30 something weeks gone already, 30 or 31 weeks gone already. So me and my mom discussed, we were just thinking on how to tell my dad. My dad was a soldier before he passed, and I was the only child and I was a girl, and it was just like, this man is, and my daddy was really strict. My daddy could scream the whole house down if he wanted to. So that was all that's in my head, like, what is this man going to say? So she told a couple of my family friends, and her friend whose husband is a pastor, and you know, they're friends to my family. And she told her sisters. I was talking to all my family members, and then all that was in our head was, how are we going to tell this man? How are we going to tell your father? Shalom, how are we going to tell your father? That was all that was. It took just one day, like, for us to tell him, but we were still thinking, you know. And the morning before we told my dad, I had told my guy, like, this is what's going to happen today. My mom and I have decided to tell my father, so you better get ready. And my guy knows that my daddy is a soldier, so he was just like, whatever comes, I'm going to take it. So it was in the evening, my daddy had just come back from work, my family friends came, and then I was in the room. I had packed my box, like half of my things in my box, like just a couple of things. Okay, this man is definitely going to say, leave my house. So in case he does, I didn't tell my guy, like, in case he does, you come and pick me up, I'll stay with you too, whatever. And then they told my father. How I knew that he had told my dad was, I heard, what? Like, it was crazy. I was in my room. I was like, I'm finished. My dad just opened the room. Get out of my house. Get out. I just carried my box. Like, I didn't even wait for anything. I just picked up my box. As I was walking towards the door, he was like, stop there. And he asked me questions. And he's like, and he called my guy. And he was just going, like the whole house was on fire. My mom, my family friends in the house were begging, like, we're so sorry. And he's like, I need his full name. Like, it was just like the whole drama. He wanted his full name. He had already called his friend at DSS to go and pick him up. And I'm like, you can't pick this nigga up, bro. He was like, it was just a whole lot. Like, I'm sure that the neighbors in my house could hear him screaming like I was pregnant, and that was what everybody was trying to avoid. Like, just relax. My daddy was going on and on about how he was disappointed. I was crying because my daddy never joked about my education or me going to school. So it just felt like, you know, I sent you to school and this is what you do to me. And then my mom and everybody was saying like everything to me, and I just couldn't I'm sorry. And funny enough, after the whole thing happened, he called his sister. She spoke to me too. My auntie spoke to me too. And that night, my daddy called me and spoke to me and was like, okay, whatever, you're pregnant. What's the way forward? And he hugged me. And the next day, he bought me croaker fish. It was like a whole switch up, and he was like, okay, because I'm an only child, you know, and he's like, okay, I'm going to have my first, you know, grandchild, so let's prepare for that. Mind you, I was like 32 weeks gone at that point. So, and before I told my mom, I had told my best friend, I had told like a couple, 3-4 of my other friends, and I told them like, oh, this is what's going on, we're pregnant. So everybody was just, you know, following me up with prayers. I told a couple of people in my church too. And everyone was, you know, checking up on me, making sure I was eating right. I was still with my mom. By God's grace, thank God my daddy did not allow me to leave the house. Because I don't know how I would have coped without my mom. Because she was doing literally almost everything for me at that point. So, my mom in the house, my mommy was so supportive of me. Like, anytime that I had to go and buy something, she would tell me that, you know what, even if anybody's looking at your belly, I'm right there beside you. Let people laugh at us. She would walk with me on my streets, you know. And it just felt like at that, all the burden of, you know, being pregnant at 20, unmarried, like it just felt like everything, you know, like it didn't feel like I was going through anything, because I had, you know, my mom's support and my family support, my dad's support, my friends. And, you know, my best friend was there for me doing like different like chores, going to get stuff for me. So I was basically just resting and relaxing and just counting down till the time that I will have a baby. My pregnancy was it was a sweet experience for me, because I wasn't having all those symptoms. And the cocoa of this gist is, do you know that immediately I found out I was pregnant, it just felt like my belly started growing. My belly started growing out of nowhere. Like, it just started coming. And that was another reason why I told my mom at the time I told her. Because my belly was coming out. And I'm like, this woman is going to see my belly. Maybe when I'm sleeping, maybe I turn. And I started wearing like big gowns. So I'm like, maybe when I'm sleeping, you know, I turn and then, you know, the bump just shows and then she notices. And my nose was getting bigger. This nose embarrassed me when I was pregnant. We'll get into that gist. So, you know, it was my body started changing. I started feeling different. I started feeling my baby's kicks. I started, you know, noticing different changes in my body, about how I used to, okay, so before I did the scan, I noticed that I used to pee more frequently than I did, but I just thought it was one of those things, and it wasn't so frequent, you know. So I just disregarded that particular symptom. I'm like, whatever. And it was just like a couple of times that I threw up, and there's something that my friend pointed out to me when we were talking about like this my whole pregnancy thing. She's like, oh, how you used to eat amala. I used to like salty and spicy food during that period. I ate a lot of spicy foods when I was pregnant. Like, I know that amala, I could, like, there was one time I walked from my house almost to like 20 minutes walk to look for amala. Like, it was that bad. Like, those are one of the things that, you know, I could say, okay, I was having cravings. And all these pregnancy cravings that people talk about, like, my body was cooperative. Like, it was cooperative with me. My pregnancy wasn't like any, you know, regular, you know, pregnancy. I wasn't having those symptoms, the whole vomiting thing. You know how you hear like pregnant women, they are craving, they wake up in the night, they're craving this. You know, the funny thing is, I was really looking forward to those experiences because I'm like, I really want to annoy my husband when I'm pregnant. I want to wake up by 3 a.m. and tell him that I want pepper soup, I want goat's meat pepper soup, and he should just go and look for it somewhere, you know. But I didn't have that experience. I didn't have the time because in the night I slept like a baby. Except, you know, all those times that I have to wake up or I was feeling my baby kick. But other times it was, you know, smooth. I wasn't having all those, you know, weird ass cravings. My whole body was cooperating with me. It was as if my body knew that, you know what, this body, like, I am not in your mood, you know. My baby, like my baby in my belly, I didn't know that you were here before, but now that I know, like before I knew that that you were inside of me, I wasn't having any stress. So now that I know, please do not stress me. And my mommy always used to tell me that when she was pregnant, she didn't, you know, have all these, you know, pregnancy symptoms that you hear that you're scared of, that you don't want to have this, your fingers and your feet are swollen, all those things. Like, she used to tell me that she didn't have any of those things, and even though it's throwing up, that she didn't have it. So I always used to tap into her testimonies whenever she's telling me, like, I want to be like my mom too. I don't want to have all these things. And it happened. So God actually answers prayers. I didn't have all those things. My pregnancy, you know, it was a very, very fantastic journey for me, and I had very, very great friends and influences and everything around me. So my EDD was, you know, it fell between the last week of July and first or second week of August. I really can't remember the dates, but it was July, August, between those periods, and it was a whole lot of anxiety building up to that whole thing. I watched a lot of videos because I didn't want to have surgery. I've always said that I don't want to have any surgery for anything, even if it's anything on my hand. I always used to tell God. I still tell him now, like, I don't want to ever have surgery. I don't want to ever have surgery until it's time for me to come back to you. I don't want anybody cutting my body open. So a cesarean section was out of it. I wanted a, you know, natural vaginal delivery. Okay, we had to register for like antenatal. I forgot that part. Register for antenatal, and my mom used to take me. My belly was so small that the nurses, they always think it was my mom that was pregnant, but they weren't sure. You know, it was my mom because it was always me and my mom that used to go. So they just thought it was my mom because I used to wear like these big shirts, and my belly wasn't showing through the shirts. It was until one time, I think it was when I was 38 weeks or 36 weeks, I had to go alone because my mommy could not come with me. And they saw me and they were like, "You're the one that was pregnant." I'm like, "Yeah." So from the first date of my first EDD, I started having contractions, and I only went to the hospital once. And then the nurse said they were Braxton Hicks contractions, and you know, like it was false contractions, and it didn't mean, like, it didn't signify labor at that point. And I'm like, okay, so when is she going to come out? Yes, I found out like the gender. I'm not a patient person, sorry. I found out the gender of my baby like a week after I found out I was pregnant. I just wanted to be like, I wanted to know if it was going to be a boy or a girl. And look here, I wanted a boy. But anyways, so I wanted a boy and my guy wanted a girl. So he won this round. So the next round, I am going to win it. So fast forward to my delivery. I was 42 weeks pregnant. 42 weeks and some days pregnant, and at that point I was scared of having surgery because I didn't want anybody to induce labor. I didn't want my labor to induce. I was like, God, this baby should come out now. I can't have, induced labor. I don't want to, because I had watched videos and I had seen a couple of videos on YouTube of women that, had their labor induced, and it wasn't fun. It wasn't funny. So I'm like, I don't want to have to go through this. The morning of when I had my baby, I took a stroll with my best friend. Oh, I was doing all the exercises. You know how they say you should squat, you should walk the stairs when you're expecting your baby or when you want your baby to come out. I was doing all of that. So it was like just one of those routines that I had to take that morning. And I was with my best friend at the time. We're just strolling and I'm like, I have cramps. So she was like, okay, why don't you just go home? Let's go home. I'm like, let's just finish the stroll. But then it was intensifying. I'm like, okay, let's go home. And so I told my mom, and she's like, why don't you go to the hospital? Let's just find out. I didn't think I was going to give birth on that day. And funny enough, it was my mom's birthday on that day. And, we're still talking about her birthday. And I'm like, okay, let me go to the hospital and just find out what's going on. And I went, and then the nurse checked me, and she's like, oh, you're about 2 centimeters dilated. And I'm like, I'm sorry. She's like, and I'm like, okay, I have to go home and pick up my stuff because I didn't come here now. And she's like, oh, you can't leave. Your baby is about to come. I'm like, okay, let me just use this as an exercise and just go home and bring my stuff. My journey home was not funny. I was crying. I was regretting leaving the hospital. I got home. The hospital wasn't so far from my house. It was like 10-15 minutes away. I got home. I told my mom, and she was excited because it was her birthday, and I had to just pick up like my hospital bag and your hospital bag, child for your baby, those kind of things that you prepare for. So my journey to the hospital to have my baby wasn't so fun because the roads were bad or wasn't so good. So the bumps, and I was having like my contractions had intensified. I was in like a whole lot of pain, and the bumps, the vehicle will go here, I will go there, and I was like, what is going on? And I never really used to complain about the bumps, but until that day, I was like, how many bumps do we have on this road? I was going crazy. When we got to the hospital, I just flew inside. The nurse checks me again, and she's like, oh, you're still 2 centimeters dilated. And I'm like, 1 hour later, like it's not supposed to have increased, like 4. And she's like, oh no, it doesn't work like that. And I checked the time. It was 2 p.m. in the afternoon. I was on the bed. 30 minutes later, my mom comes inside. By that time, my contractions had intensified. I was going through a lot of pain. You know how when you have like normal period cramps, because people come to ask me like, oh, is labor painful? It is painful. When I see women that have given birth like 6 times through their vaginas, I'm like, how did you do this? How did you go through this? Like at that point, I was screaming, I was shouting, like even the nurses had to tell me to calm down. I'm like, bro, I'm going through like a whole lot of pain. It got to a point that I had to ask for painkillers, just something to reduce the pain. And then the nurse goes, oh, if we give you a painkiller, you might have to stay in the hospital longer than today. And I'm like, I don't want to stay. Okay, you know what, don't worry, just I'm going to face it like that. But it wasn't a fun experience. I mean, the experience happens, for a good result. You get to see your baby. But at that point, I was just asking, like, are these pains necessary just to bring life into the world? My mom was there, and okay, my mom and my best friend were at the hospital at that time, and everybody was like, okay, you just need to breathe, you need to breathe in, breathe out. So I'm like, it is not helping. Look, this breathing in and breathing out is not doing anything to me. It's not doing anything to my belly. I don't know who told you guys that breathing and breathing out helps, but it does not help. And then it was like 4 o'clock, and then 5, and I was checking the time, and okay, then I called my guy. I'm like, where the f are you? Where are you? And he's like, oh, I'm not around. I had to go like, I'm so far from you, like I can't make it. So the thing just made me upset all over again. Like, this man that put me in this position he's not even here for me to slap him, because I wanted to give him a very dirty slap. And then I was telling my mom that, and then next thing she goes, next time you won't have sex again. Like, it was, and then there was a time that the nurse came back to check me. It was like 5 o'clock, and then she checked and it was like 4 centimeters. I'm like, it can't be 4, bro. I had just, for the past 3 hours, I have been in pain. I have been experiencing contractions back to back. It can't be 4. She's like, oh, it's 4. I need to stay for like, you know, some hours, maybe like in the night it will become 8 or 9. I'm like, I can't. And then I just told God that I want to leave this hospital today. I don't want to have to give birth to my baby tomorrow. And then I really wanted it to be on that day because it was my mom's birthday. So I'm like, it has to be today. I want my mom to have a birthday meet, and I want her first birthday meet to be her grandchild. It was just something I wanted to happen, and I could see that she was excited, you know. And I'm like, I want to have this baby today. And then it was like around to 7 o'clock. The nurse came to check me again, and I was 9 centimeters gone. And I'm like, yes, let's go and have this baby. I entered the delivery room. I checked the time. It was like 7 o'clock. At that time, 7 p.m. in the evening, and it was my first time. I didn't know how to push. I didn't know how to position my body, and you know, I guess I wasn't putting like my legs properly, or I wasn't, you know, laying down properly, or just doing something properly. I had a tear when I was giving birth to my baby, but before I get into that gist, it was 7:15 when my baby came out, because I looked at the time. So it was like 15 minutes delivery and a 5-hour labor for me. So 5-hour labor, 15-minute delivery for me. And we had my precious baby, Zuriel. Throughout my labor, I like, it just always felt like I wanted to poo. And you know, the nurse explained to me like, oh, these are the things, like you would feel like pooing, but if you want to poo, it is not poo, it's your baby's head. And I'm like, okay. And you know, my water actually did not even break. My water did not break at home. My water broke like 2-3 hours into my labor. Like 2-3 hours into my labor. It was like 3-4 p.m. before my water broke. So, and I had never heard of anybody that their water broke while they were in hospital. You know how you watch videos and their water, you know, always breaks when they're like at home, and it's like, oh, it's time to have my baby. So I was just I was expecting everything to just follow that, you know, whole sequence, but I guess it didn't happen like that for me. So after my baby came out of my vagina, it felt like somebody had poured cold water on my body. The kind of relief I felt, I have never felt that kind of relief before. It was calming. You know how you're tired and you heave a very big sigh? That was how it felt. I felt like the whole world had stopped. And it was just me there. That was how calming the feeling was. But the only pain I was experiencing was, you know, my vagina, because I had just given birth. I had just pushed the baby out of it. So that was the only pain I was feeling at that point. But the contractions, everything had stopped. I had my baby came out, and do you know that, you know how when you watch all these videos and then you see, you know, mothers that just gave birth and then they carry their baby out there? I wasn't in the mood for that. Because I started feeling really, really cold. I don't know if anybody else has had that experience. I started feeling like very cold, like they had to cover me up. I was shaking. I almost fell off the bed. I just knew that it was freezing. It was freezing in the delivery room, and you know, they took my baby out. I forgot to tell you guys, my mom was outside the room praying, oh Jesus, oh thank you Jesus, oh Jesus. And I'm like, this woman, somebody tell that woman to leave, she's distracting me. And then when she heard that I had given birth, she screamed, "Hallelujah!" And I'm like, oh. I'm like, oh, this woman. yeah. So anyways, they gave my baby to my mom. I was still there, and then they dressed me up, and I mentioned that I had it here, and they sewed me up. It was just very, very little, nothing so bad. And then they sew me up. In the night, I had to wake up to feed my baby, and breast milk wasn't coming out at that point, and I was a bit sad because I was weak, I was tired, and my child, second day, my child wasn't, getting breast milk from my breast because it wasn't flowing yet, and it was, my breast milk didn't actually flow till like the second day, like in the afternoon, and that was when my child's dad came in, and I breastfed my baby, and I didn't even carry my baby up until the night I had her because I was too tired, and they had to give my baby formula because I wasn't bringing out breast milk yet, so they had to give her like formula, and she had to be on formula for like a day or two before my breast milk started flowing like normally, like the normal rate that it was supposed to. So I was giving my baby formula and breast milk for like we were in the hospital for about 4 or 5 days extra after I had my baby. I didn't go to the house immediately because the doctor had to still check me because of the bleeding that I had, and the doctor also said that thank God that it wasn't an internal bleeding because it would have been another story, but thank God that God did not allow that. And I went home like a couple of days after, and my blood, they had to run a blood test for me to check my blood level, and it was really low, so I had to get all those ugu and liver. My mommy had to go to the market. My mommy was with me throughout. My mommy even fell sick, and then a couple of my cousins actually came to see me, and my friends too, in the hospital. And everybody felt distress. Everybody felt distress, and I was really grateful for all the love that I had around me at the hospital at that point. And then the day I was supposed to go home, like 3-4 of my friends came to pick me up from the hospital, and then they took me back home. When I got home, it was time for intensive postpartum treatment from my mom. My mommy would wake up every morning, she would give me akamu and pepper soup. When we got home from the hospital, the next morning, my mom woke me up with hot water, like a bowl of hot water, like a big bowl of hot water. She's like, oh yeah. Because at the hospital, I used to do, so before we went home, the nurses told me that, every morning and night, I should boil, like just a little quantity of hot water, and then just put it in like a big bowl, like a bowl that's big enough for me to sit in it, and add salt and antiseptic and sit in it, that it will help with the wound. My first experience was I was screaming because it was so hot. I'm like, is this what women go through? And I had to put my vagina in that, and it was traumatizing because I had to do it for 3 months, or just until I healed enough, like just until I felt good enough. But the nurse said I should do it for like a month or 2, and then just see how I feel. And I was doing that like every morning and every night before I go. Every morning and every evening, I was doing the whole hot water thing, the hot water in a bowl with salt and the antiseptic. Like the way I would sit down is like you bring a bowl and then you sit in it, and then like my vagina has to literally touch the water for the heat to penetrate inside. And I'm like, all this because I brought a child into the world. So my mommy used to use hot water, like she put a towel in the hot water and just use it to massage my belly, like my belly and my back, so that to get the shape back, and that actually helped me snap back to my usual physique before the big stomach before the pregnancy. So those things, and I used to take pepper soup with like a whole lot of spices. My mom used to add oya oya, uziza, all those things, all those pepper soup spices. So everything I was taking, I did that thing for 3 months. Trust me. And sometimes she would just do the pepper soup without meat, without anything. She would just do it for me in the morning, and I would just throw it in my mouth. And I was always taking a pap. I used to take pap like two, 3 times a day because of breast milk. But I wasn't, my baby wasn't, you know, fed exclusively. Like, it wasn't just breast milk. I had to mix with the whole formula thing because I wasn't producing a lot of breast milk at that point. And even up until I stopped breastfeeding her, my baby wasn't taking breast milk exclusively. It was water, formula, and breast milk. And I was really, you know, sad about that because I used to hear when moms used to talk about how they produce, like, you know how you watch videos and then you see mothers producing like a lot of breast milk like in a bottle, and it's just like, why can't I do this too? But you know, everybody's body. I'm about to cry. I'm about to cry. You know, I felt really sad about how or why I couldn't, you know, produce like a whole, like enough breast milk for my baby. But you know, I guess it's just one of those things that happen either ways. So back to the good story. Anyways, that happened, and my daddy was really supportive just before he passed. You know, my daddy passed like 4 or 5 months after my baby. So I was really happy that my daddy saw and was able to bond with his grandchild before he passed. So I got like a lot of love and support from my family and from a lot of people. I got gifts and money too from people. That was a very, very good time for me. I feel like I should give birth again soon. The whole postpartum experience, the trying to get your body back, I feel like it is more intense, and it takes a lot of dedication, even far more than when you're pregnant, because you're trying to get your body back. You're trying to, you know, your baby is here now, you're taking care of your child, and you're trying to get your body back, and you're trying to be there for family, there's like a whole lot of things. And at a point, a week or two, I felt depressed, and you know, I was just going through it. Everything was just in my head. My baby was here now, I'm a mom. That was when the realization really hits me, like, look at your child, look at you, you are a mother, there's somebody here that you have to live for, there's somebody now that you're taking care of, so behave yourself. So yeah, the whole getting your body back, that whole experience it takes a whole lot of work, and it takes a whole lot of dedication. People always talk about your pregnancy and your delivery and everything, and nobody really talks about, you know, getting back to your CC body and mind and all of that. And it took a whole lot of dedication from me and my mom taking care of me for me to be able to, you know, come back to myself, you know, postpartum body, and just try to be there and just try to come back to the Shalom that I was before I had a baby, before I got pregnant, and before all of that. And 3 years down the line, it's been a beautiful experience for me, and now I can look back at my pregnancy journey and my delivery and everything and just be like, and laugh about it. Trust me, when I was pregnant, nothing was funny. When I found out I was pregnant, nothing was funny. Jokes that were being cracked, I was looking like, what's funny? The first few weeks into the time I found out I was pregnant, I wasn't laughing at anybody because I'm like, bro, you don't know what's going on with me. But you know, it has happened. 2020 was a very memorable year for me. It has happened, and we have moved past it, and we are growing. My baby is healthy. She's one of the most beautiful things that I have ever seen and has ever happened to me, and I feel very blessed. When I look at her, I thank God, and I thank God that God gave me that beautiful gift. Every time I talk about her, I start getting teary because that's how much she means to me. And you know, sometimes when I see her grow, I remember how little she was when I held her in the hospital, and when I used to carry her when she was a baby, and waking up those nights to breastfeed, those nights to breastfeed, those nights to breastfeed. Oh my God, that's like another gist for like another day. Let's not even get into that part. This episode was for my pregnancy and my delivery and my postpartum journey. So yeah, that's it. You know, so that's everything that happened, you know, that came into me being a mom. Mommy Zuriel. Mommy Z. So that was my pregnancy and labor and delivery, you know, experience. And I just wanted to, for pregnant mothers that are watching me now, or for mothers that are expecting, or for people that don't want to have children yet, but you know, they want to know how the experience is. I can't even give like any advice or any. I can't say do this or do that, because when I found out I was pregnant, I was 7 months in. But I know one thing I did was all the medication. You know, doctors giving like the whole folic acid and everything. I made sure I took my medication, because you miss a lot of even when I used to go for antenatal that time, you see mothers say, oh, I can't take medication, or I don't like drugs. You're really not taking those drugs. At that point, you're not living for yourself, you're living for your baby too. So one thing I would advise is stick to medication. Any drug that your doctor gives you, take it. Just make sure you take it, because it really helped me. Because I found out late, but thank God I was eating right. So eating right kind of helped, you know, me and my baby's growth. Because when I found out I was pregnant, I was so scared. Like, I haven't been doing, you know, the whole pregnant, because I was still taking caffeine, all those things. And I checked, and my baby's body was okay. When I did the whole ultrasound thing, she was fine. So it was just left for me to try to make up for those months that I missed, that I wasn't taking, like I wasn't paying attention to her, because I didn't know that I was pregnant. So one advice I would give is make sure you stick to your meds and eat right. Take lots of fruits and vegetables. Lots of fruits and vegetables really help. So, I made sure I took my medication. I made sure, like, all the drugs that the hospital asked me to take, I made sure I took everything. I made sure I ate right. Thank God for my mom too. I ate right, my fruits, my veggies, exercise, you know, the walks. And I had like this app on my phone, what to expect when you're expecting. It really helped me, because I was so obsessed with that app at that time. I was always checking, like, oh, my baby is the size of a coconut now, my baby is the size of a watermelon now, like, because it gives you like those things so that you can imagine, you know, how big your baby is at the particular month or trimester, whatever, or what your baby is doing now, the organs. And if you're an expecting mother, you should download that app, What to Expect. This is free ad. This is free ad for them, but either ways, whatever. So yeah, I made sure I paid attention to what the doctor was telling me, and my meds and my fruits and my veggies, my exercises, those things. Another advice I would give is don't expect someone else's pregnancy and labor and delivery experience to be like yours. Like, don't try to, you know, she said she experienced this, so that means I have to experience this. Everybody's body is different. I might, you know, be in a lot of pain when something happens to me, and it will just be, you know, very little pain that you would feel. So that was my pregnancy and labor and delivery experience, and I hope you guys had fun. That story time. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, make sure you do. And this is a shout out to all mothers that are expecting, that are pregnant right now. I wish you guys safe delivery, and may you hold your bundle of joy in your hands when when he or she comes out. I love you guys. Stay real, stay blessed. Bye.